Right, absolutely. To get more perspective on those numbers, we're joined by two expert voices, Naveen Kulkarni, co-head of research at Phillip Capital, and Bhavesh Gandhi of IIFL. Bhavesh, let me come to you first. How do you see the idea numbers this time around? Yesterday we saw a stellar Q4 by Bharti. How do these numbers really fare according to your estimates?
On the headline front, both the revenues and margins are above our estimate. In fact, margins are much above our estimate, at about 38 odd percent. While on the bottom line front, the numbers look below our expectations. We had expected something upwards of 600 odd crore, but the number is below our expectation.
Right. Naveen, let me come to you. The margins this time around for Idea are substantially higher. Do you see this trend to continue going forward?
See, if I were to look at the margins, of course, the margins are higher because nobody was building in the kind of improvement in pricing that we have seen in this quarter. And pricing typically has a very, very high sensitivity on margins because most of the pricing benefit directly flows to the bottom line or rather to the EBITDA numbers. And compared to volumes, pricing has typically a much higher sensitivity. So that is what has happened. So improvement of 4.5% is a very, very significant improvement in pricing. So that has led to the significant beat in the EBITDA margins. Going ahead, it's going to be a tricky situation because if I were to look at Bharti's voice volumes have grown by around 6% on a sequential basis. That means they have gained market share from Idea Cellular. So that is a situation which whether it is sustainable or not will depend on the both companies' strategy going ahead. So I would say feel that in this kind of a scenario, probably it is sustainable considering the situation in terms of the interest cost payments and other depreciation charges have increased significantly. So I would say that telecom operators would be more prudent with their pricing strategy from here on. So if pricing sustains, margins will sustain. If operators compete on volumes, then these margins may not be sustainable for Idea Cellular.
Naveen, if I take this question forward, in past we have seen that there is a price elasticity. Whenever we have seen in pricing improving, we have seen an impact or a negative impact on the volume growth, which is exactly how it played out in case of Idea. And similarly, in case of Bharti, we've seen volume growing substantially higher at the cost of pricing. So do you see these two different trends, Bharti concentrating or chasing more volume while Idea chasing pricing? Can these two different strategies exist in this competitive environment?
What I'm trying to say is, see, Bharti has not necessarily gone after volume. So it has happened as a consequence of Idea taking up the pricing. Whereas Bharti has not necessarily cut prices significantly. If let's say 6% volume growth that Bharti has generated would have been at the cost of 4% cut in pricing, then I would say that probably Bharti's strategy has been more to chase volumes. But on the other hand, what has happened is that pricing for Bharti has declined by around 1.5%, but it's not a very, very significant number in the overall context of things, considering the last quarter's exit pricing would have been at a similar level, so on and so forth. So from that perspective, it's been the impact on Bharti's volume market share gain has been to do with the other players trying to raise their prices. So whether whether a player like Idea Cellular would continue with this strategy of raising prices or not is something which remains to be seen, because if Idea Cellular continues to raise prices, then it is a very, very I would say typical scenario where Bharti, being the market leader, would also like to take up the prices, because that would be a much more comfortable position in managing their profit and loss structure.
Bhavesh, if I can come to you, in both Bharti and Idea's case, we've seen substantial expansion of margins, and there is also an expectation that there will be a new entrant who is likely to be disruptive and the pricing could come under pressure. How do you see these margins? Do you see them sustaining? There is also one school of thought that believes that the entry of RelJio will expand the market and we are likely to see data growth substantially higher once they enter. How do you see this panning out and how do you see margins being maintained for both Idea and Bharti going forward?
I think in terms of margins, clearly, if RGOs in the scheme of things, if pricing is a point of worry clearly on the market, we do believe that data yields, data pricing would be under pressure once RGO enters with its scheme of things. So clearly, on the margin front for both Idea and Bharti, especially with respect to Idea, we do believe margins may remain sideways or move or be slightly under pressure going forward.
Right. Naveen, Bhavesh, as well as Sunita ma'am, thanks a ton for joining us and bringing us what those numbers really mean as far as the stock of Idea is concerned. But moving on, Bank of Japan's